computer. There we go. And let me reshare again. Okay. So as I said, welcome. This business seminar is sponsored by, one of the sponsors, I should say, is the Newington Chamber of Commerce. If you're not familiar with us, we are a volunteer organization of business people in the local Newington community. Our goals are to provide our members with a network of other local business resources. We get involved in the community. We do things like this. We educational presentations from our members. For our members as well, we're a source of advocacy in the local government and state government. We do things for our members like promoting our members' businesses through social media and other marketing platforms. And we give our members an opportunity to network with other members locally or other businesses in the local area. So if you are a small business owner, if you're interested in checking out the Chamber of Commerce, I obviously highly encourage you to do so. You can check out our website at newingtonchamber.com. As I said, this is one of the things that we do is we sponsor business seminars like this. And this is also co-sponsored by the Newington Library. So Michelle, do you mind speaking to this?
Sure. As you can see, Ray's put together a wonderful slide. And although our doors are closed right now, we're certainly in the library every day helping patrons. You're welcome to give us your holds. We can give you magazines, books, DVDs, anything that we could give you when the library's open. At this time, I just wanted to say an upcoming program. We're partnering with the Connecticut Humane Society, and it's a Pet Savvy program coming up on February 22nd. The Friends of the Library are holding a Facebook Live program next Tuesday night with Deanna Rini from Karma's Closet. And on March 5th, we have a Disney trivia night. So it's our second trivia night. They've been going really well, but we appreciate the support from the Chamber. I am head of community services at the library, and I'm also secretary of the Newington Chamber of Commerce. Ray, thank you so much. And I think we can take it from there.
Sure. And just one last thing there, I have the bullet highlighted too, that, if you do work from home, either, for yourself, take advantage of the business resources available at the library. Obviously, when you go there in person, when we get back to going there in person, there is a whole area of the library devoted to career and business resources, but also online too. There's a lot of great online resources available to you. So check that out too. I think that's one of those things that people forget about, but it's available to you as a library patron. So with that, let me stop my presentation and hand it over to our speaker tonight. Jenn will be talking about home office and working from home. You're on mute there, Jenn.
All right, Ray, do I have permission to share my screen?
Yep. Oh, let me just check, make sure you're.
It's saying no.
Oh, sorry. Let me do that one more time. Try it now. And your audio is a little bit quiet. Your microphone's a little bit quiet, Jenn.
All right. Let me just get this working. Can you hear me okay now?
A little bit higher. Yep.
Okay. I'll get a little closer. I've got my little
Much better.
iRig. I got my iRig mic nearby, so I just got to make sure it's in an earshot. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone being here. Let's see. I'm going to keep myself over here in the corner. So we're going to talk about setting yourself up for success when you're working from home. And for some of us, working from home is the norm. We're set up, we have a designated space, but in the light of COVID-19 and a lot of our businesses being shut down, so many of us have been kind of thrust into this whole idea of remote work. So regardless of what your background and why you might be working from home, I do think that this is a completely relevant topic. And to give you a little bit about me and why am I here talking about this, I have been working with the human body for about 17 years, and that's in various capacities. So my background is in sports medicine, working with athletes, injury prevention and rehabilitation, And in the past few years, I've transitioned that focus, and I spend time in the workplace doing ergonomics and injury prevention in the workplace. And then I'm also the owner of Concentric Care, looking at movement screens, how the body moves, taking care of achiness and soreness, and helping people to move better so that they can feel better. So I'm going to challenge you to do a little thing with me, if you would permit. So I'm going to have you do a little eye dominance test. So whether you know it or not, we have one eye that is dominant over than the other. So I'm going to give you a little demo. I'm going to have you extend your arms all the way away from your body, and you're going to create a little triangle. Okay? So once you create your little triangle, you need to have something that is not moving in that triangle. So if you have a photo frame or a clock on the wall or something that's fixed in place, you're going to get whatever that item is right in your little triangle. So with both eyes open, you're going to look through that triangle and visualize whatever that item is. I'm looking at a frame. Then we're going to close your right eye. Just close your right eye. What happens to that item in the middle of your little triangle? Did it shift? Did it stay in the middle? Switch eyes. So if you closed your right, now close your left. Did it stay in the middle or did it shift? So more often than not, if we are right hand dominant, our right eye usually is going to be the dominant eye. There are some special individuals who have a cross between right dominant, left eye dominant, but this is important to know. So kind of tuck that away for a little bit. We're going to get back to that eye dominance. So ergonomics sounds like it's a super fancy word, but essentially what ergonomics and the study of ergonomics is looking at the place of your work and how your body relates to that space. So there are people called ergonomists who that's their job, is to look at either a workspace and fit it to the person in that space, or me as the worker, I'm looking to make my space at home fit to my body. One of the things, if we're looking at the labors of Bureau statistics, 33% of work-related illnesses are related to musculoskeletal disorders. So what does that mean? Musculoskeletal disorders are going to be your muscle soreness, your strains, your sprains, issues with carpal tunnel, things like that. So about a third of our work-related injuries are all related to those physical symptoms. Musculoskeletal disorders are also one of the most frequently reported causes of lost time from work. So think about that. You know, was it an achy back that maybe had to stay home? The shoveling that many might have done over the past 2 days, some achiness in the shoulders, the low back. So some things to consider, but musculoskeletal achiness and soreness is what we're really going to focus on in terms of today's presentation. Some of the most common are going to be your carpal tunnel, tendonitis, rotator cuff tendonitis, the elbow stuff, epicondylitis, trigger finger. So if we spend a lot of time on the computer, or maybe we're a manual worker and we're using controls, things like muscle strains, low back soreness. But the good thing is that all of these things can be prevented. That's what I do, is we talk about injury prevention. So in the workplace, we can look at the way that a workspace is set up and structure it in a way that's going to be comfortable for the human body to reduce the chances of these musculoskeletal disorders. But when we get shifted to working from home, who's going to do that for you? So if we're working from home, there are definitely some steps and strategies that I can help walk you through to set your workstation up for success. All right, you guys still hearing me okay? Okay, perfect. So injury prevention programs they're one specific avenue that we can take to reduce our risk of injury. But when we work remote, we don't always have that luxury. So we are not going to be immune from those subtle aches and pains that we might have when we're on site in the office. When we move to home, we're still completely susceptible to developing those types of things. So what kind of space are you working with? Well, if you're like me, the left is probably a little more common, where everybody is trying to share some space. Maybe you have children who are working from home, or maybe you have a spouse that's also working from home, a significant other or partner, and everyone's trying to share a space to kind of post up. And maybe some of us already have a designated workspace, and that's wonderful. So we're going to look at these two different spaces and how to make those spaces comfortable for your body so that you can reduce the low back soreness, the tension in the shoulders, and how to make it more suitable for you to have a productive work day. So one of the questions that is fairly common is it better for me to sit, or should I be standing to do my work? We hear lots of talk that sitting is the new smoking. I'm not a huge fan of that line. And the answer to that question is really both of them are great. The human body is designed to move. And if we ask it to be in one static position for an extended period of time, that's where we're going to notice that things don't feel right. Think about a long car ride. If you're sitting in a car ride from Connecticut to your favorite vacation, yes, you're excited, but chances are you're going to get a little fidgety. Maybe the hips are going to get achy, the low back. And really, it's the same thing with your workstation setup. So maybe part of the day you're sitting at a desk. Maybe part of the day you're standing at a kitchen counter. While we all would love to have a height adjustable desk when we're home, and maybe we do, it would be lovely, but more often than not, we're not going to have that adjustability. But keeping in the back of your mind that bodies are designed to move. So one is not necessarily better than other. I would just highly recommend to change your positions throughout the day. The one thing that I do want to point out on this particular slide is the individual who is standing. The individual who's standing, she has her foot up on a box. So if we are choosing to stand, if we offset our stance, we're actually reducing the amount of compression at our low back. So if we are opting to stand at a countertop, or we have a standing work desk, think about having something to prop a foot on, whether it's a stool, maybe it's a box of paper ream, a stack of books, whatever you happen to have. That subtle change or balancing off of your weight is a great way to alleviate tension and tightness in the low back. All right, so if we look down at the top of our workspace, whether we're sitting at a kitchen table or we have a designated office area, we have work zones. So in the green is going to be our primary work zone. In the yellow is going to be something that maybe we're not reaching for as often, maybe a stapler or a pencil sharpener, if people still use pencil sharpeners. And then in zone 3 is going to be kind of the things that you rarely will reach for. Now, let me dial it back a little bit. The reason why we have these designated reach zones is all about the frequency in which we use the items in our work area. So for example, if we have a landline and we have it tucked all the way at the back of our work area, maybe in zone 2 or zone 3, and you take calls throughout the day, you don't use a headset, you're going, kind of old school and answering the phone, but you're consistently reaching out and grabbing, over time, maybe that shoulder begins to get a little bit cranky. Other things that you might have in zone 1 are going to be your mouse pad, any sort of writing utensils that you're going to use on the regular. Things that, like a calculator, if you're in accounting or you're doing any sort of engineering work, maybe that's in zone 2, but it really depends on what your work tasks are and how frequently you use them. Other things to consider are the keyboard. So if you are sitting at a computer that has a keyboard right now,
I'm going to invite you to take your keyboard and pick it up. Pick it up off of your desk or your workstation. Pick that guy up and look at the back of your keyboard. What do you notice on the back of a keyboard? They've got those fun little feet, right? We all flip them up and put them back down because that's what the feet are there for, right? You flip them up and then you can type. Well, I'm here to tell you that we don't need the feet. Okay? The feet were actually put on keyboards way back in the day when we transitioned from typewriters and word processors before we got fancy with computers. And there was a huge transition from people doing clerical work to computers that the keyboard was funny for them. It felt weird. So those feet were installed to help ease that transition from an upright wrist posture on a keyboard or on a typewriter to working on a keyboard. So I would invite you, your takeaway from today, if you can learn one thing, is that if you do use a keyboard, flip those little feet down and flatten the keyboard. You will not notice a difference within a day or two. The reason why I suggest it is because it places your wrists in a nice neutral position. Lots of really important anatomical structures in your wrist. We've got nerves, we've got blood flow, really important things that go out to the fingers, giving you sensation and circulation. We want to make sure that we set your wrists up in an environment with an ergonomic lens so that we can allow all those important anatomical structures to do their thing. So give it a try. Your body will adjust. It will feel awkward to start, but that is your one thing that you can do right away from this presentation. All right, so moving on to seating. Office chairs. They have all these fancy office chairs, whether you go to Office Max or online, and you can spend as little or as much as you would like, okay? So if we look at how we kind of square up to our workstation, there are a couple of rules of thumb to keep in mind. One, when you're seated, your feet should be flat. So if you're petite, and your feet dangle like mine do sometimes, depending on the workstation, getting some sort of footrest or stool underneath the feet so that there's some contact with the floor. Otherwise, if you can sit in a chair with your hips and knees at 90-degree angles, just like this picture shows, and your feet are able to contact the floor, then awesome, that's a good thing. But if you're not quite able to get the feet flat, always suggest to get something under there to create that contact. Another key fact that you're looking at when you set up for your workspace is what's going on at the shoulders. We have all experienced shoulder and neck tension, I am quite positive, at some point in our lives. A lot of us will hold our tension in our neck, so we don't need any extra help by having the shoulders elevated at our workspace. So there are a few ways that we can ensure that our shoulders stay relaxed. We want to make sure that our chair is at the appropriate height. Second, our elbows should be able to bend to about 90 degrees, and we should be able to seamlessly transition our forearms on and off the desk. When we can transition our hands onto their keyboard and back, transitioning back and forth, if the shoulders can stay nice and soft, relaxed, then we know that our seat is at the right height and that our workstation is at the right height. Elbows are around 90 degrees of flexion. The chin is parallel to the floor. This is one that you might need to have somebody take a picture of you from the side, because chances are our body loves routine and it's going to resort to positions and postures that feel familiar. So we want to make sure that the monitor is going to be at an appropriate height, which we're going to get to in a slide or two. But you can see from this individual who's sitting at her desk, her chin is parallel to the floor. Her line of sight, she can look directly at her screen and kind of find the midpoint of that screen without moving her head. Last but not least, we're looking at a supported back. So if we have an office chair, awesome, wonderful. We want to make sure that lumbar support is fit for our body. In most cases, if we have a shared space, or maybe we all use the office space, or we all will sit at the computer and there's one chair. If it's adjustable, we have to remind ourselves that we don't want to just set it and forget it. Right? A lot of these fancier models have so many bells and whistles, even the more basic models, but you can at least raise and lower that lumbar support. So what might fit for somebody who's 5'4" is not going to be an appropriate fit for someone who's 6'2". So consider that when you are choosing a seat, that you want to make sure that if there is adjustability options, to make sure that it's fit for your body, okay? Chances are, if you feel it, it's going to feel right. But if you can feel where that small of your back is, if you take your hand right to the low back, that's going to be the area where you're going to focus that lumbar support, that attention. How are we doing so far? We're doing okay? All right, beautiful. So I only got 1 or 2 more slides to go, and then I'm going to show you some other things, some other takeaways. So we talk about.
Hey, Jen, real quick, I just want to make sure that you know that your video was turned off, right? You wanted to turn your video off.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, unless you want to see me talk. That's
No,
fine.
no, I'm good. Just want to make sure.
I'm going to pop back on. I'm coming back on. Don't worry. You won't have to miss me.
Yep.
All right. So when we're choosing our screen monitors, the screen height matters. Okay. So when I look at a workstation setup and I do an office assessment, a lot of times the screen is either too low so that the gaze has to fall to meet it, which means the chin drops down towards the chest, or it's high, kind of like you're in a spaceship looking at all of your space commands, getting ready to rocket into outer space. So the way that we look at this is an arm's length away. So if you extend your arm straight out in front of you, that's the appropriate distance of your monitor. And then in terms of the monitor height, we're looking at the top third of your forehead. So you should be able to look at the center of the screen. So it's showing with this little joint angle here that they have on this demo. You should be able to lower your eyes to the center of the screen, look at whatever material it is that you need to look to, and raise your eyes back up without moving your head. So remember that eye dominance test? Yes. So I'll pop my video back on for a second here. So the eye dominance test is important when we're working on more than one screen. All right. So when we're working on more than one screen, I have worked with individuals who will either have a split screen, or they might have 3 screens, or they might have more, but we'll talk about 2 and 3. So how do you know where to position your monitors? Well, if you're using 2 screens, if you kind of share 50% of your time, you want to have the screens split right in the middle with the seam of those 2 monitors right at your nose. But in many cases, we'll have individuals who will have a primary screen for a majority of their work, but maybe they have another screen on the side for their email or for something like that. In that case, your eye dominance matters. So if you are right eye dominant and you're using 2 screens, you should have your main screen in front of you with your secondary screen on your right. Now, sometimes we're kind of bound up by our workspace. Maybe there's a dormer behind you, or maybe depending on the configuration of your desk, maybe it doesn't work that way. But if all efforts should be made at, if you're using that dual screen approach with a secondary, it should be on your eye dominant side. Okay. We look to do that because if it's on your left and I'm right eye dominant, I'm constantly doing this to look at my screen, or my eyes have to shift all the way over, and then you're going to start to experience some eye fatigue and some headaches. Okay. Another reason why eye dominance is important to consider is if you are using work materials and maybe you're copying data and you're putting it in a database, you're going to want that on your eye dominant side. All right, So here's my tool, my dual screen example, split right in the middle. So that's someone who's going to use both screens 50-50 or 60-40 even. That's totally cool. But again, primary and secondary, that one you're going to have to keep that eye dominance in mind. All right, so here's a little real life scenario. So this is back to the pandemic, right when it hit home. Everybody is trying to work from home. So a couple of examples. I'm on the right, I'm standing, and a few modifications that I made is I used Tupperware. Yeah, real crafty. Used my Tupperware container to elevate my laptop. Now, my neck is pretty good, but my eyes, I have to look downwards, right? Other good thing that I've got going here is I've got a nice 90-degree angle at my elbows so that my shoulders can stay soft. And then my little yellow circle, I've got a little staggered stance going to offset the weight and reduce compression at my low back. Now, I'm not going to stand there for 8 hours. It's just not going to happen. But this is a great opportunity to maybe stand, do some work, change positions, and maybe my husband and I can switch. So my husband, on the other hand, is on the left and he is seated. You'll notice that he's got a little lift underneath his laptop, but before Christmas, he did not have said lift. And that laptop was flat on our kitchen table. So you can see that his chin is slightly down, his gaze is down. Imagine that a couple inches lower. So he would be in this flexed position. The best way to give another example is working on your cell phone. We do it. We all do it. We're walking, we're typing, and more often than not, we're here. Okay? If we are always in this flexed position, we're getting really tight here in the front of the neck and lengthening through the back. And what happens is the back muscles are saying, no, 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 we're part of this too. They start to tighten and we start to get these knots in our back. And we have this muscle imbalance just from this flexion at the neck from extended periods of time. And so if you're noticing, God, I'm getting more headaches lately, maybe it's a monitor situation is too low. So the lift that I have for him definitely elevates the screen so that we can protect his neck because he was having some neck issues. One of the things that I highlighted here with the circle is his elbows are right on that sharp corner of the tabletop. Now, for someone like him who's not typically a work from home or remote working individual, this probably will not bother him long term. However, if you do work at a desk and you sit there for long periods of time, that's something we call contact stress. So contact stress is just pressure on soft tissue, and over time, it may be problematic, it may not. But in those cases where you do spend a lot of time seated at the computer, I might look to change the position so that his arm doesn't lay right on that corner. They have wrist guards. I might change his seat height is too low. So there's a couple of things that are going on in this particular situation. But the biggest is going to be shoulders relaxed, keeping the chin parallel as best that you can to protect the neck. Right, so we're coming to a close. So our workspace is updated. We made our changes, we changed our seat, we cleared our work zones, we pulled things that are really important closer to us. Now what do we do? All right, so if you go back to the beginning of this discussion, our bodies are designed to move. So changing positions frequently is so important. So moving from sit to stand, things like opposing the motion. If I'm seated for a long period of time and I'm doing a lot of mouse work, that right shoulder, if I'm right arm dominant, I want to do something else with it. So if I'm constantly reaching, I might work to maybe stretch into extension, so opposing the motion. If I'm maybe copying data, I have it on my eye dominant side, but if I'm always looking right, looking left to oppose the motion. All right, so this is it for the actual content of the presentation in terms of information. But what are other strategies that you can take away from today? I'm telling you to move the body and to change positions. I'd love to give you some things to take away to use on your own. So here's a few things. I always suggest that if you're going to do any sort of stretching and movement, something that might be new to your body, always make sure that it's okay with your doctor, especially if it's something new. At the workstation, neck range of motion is really important, particularly if we are seated right at a computer. So things like bringing the chin down towards the chest, bringing the chin up to neutral, looking over the right shoulder, looking over the left shoulder, and then ear to the shoulder, side bending, and then ear to the shoulder, opposite side bending. So moving the neck, getting it out of that static position is a great way to facilitate movement, blood flow, keeping circulation, all the space for your nerves to do their important jobs. So some other things that you can do besides actually moving the neck are some stretches. So one that I love for the front of the neck is for the scalene muscles. So these teeny tiny muscles in the neck. And if we spend a lot of time in flexion on our phone, iPads, tablets, or maybe our monitors are too low, we can work on opening this area in the front of the neck. So if you'd like to try it with me, you can try it. You take your right hand right over your chest, just like I pledge allegiance. And then we take our other hand and rest it right on top. Now, I trust that your collarbone will not move when you move it, but you're going to gently pull the skin downward. Okay, so downwards towards your toes. So gentle traction. Take a nice big breath in. And as you breathe out, you're going to look over the opposite shoulder and slightly up. Now, because everybody is unique and we all have our own different kind of quirks, you might have to kind of move the neck up and down to feel the best stretch or lengthening that your body needs. And then you can go on the other side. You take your left hand right over the heart or over the chest, and we'll take the other hand right on top, gentle pull down through the skin. Your collarbone won't move. So you're going to pull down, take a breath in, and then as you breathe out, look over your opposite shoulder and then slightly up. Play with that neck position until you get a nice opening through the front of the neck. And then whenever we find a stretch that feels good, I always suggest taking either 3 to 5 breaths, or if you like to count it out, upwards of 30 seconds, but stretching should not cause you pain. So if you try that and it hurts, and that's something you want to kind of dial back and maybe have another conversation with your healthcare provider. But that's a wonderful way to get into the front of the neck, especially if you're a teeth clencher at night, you're stressed, these muscles get really, really tight. And one other ones that I would love to do, and then I want to leave time for questions, is getting into the forearm and in the hands. We always hear, at least from my mom, she was a secretary, carpal tunnel, because she typed all day long. So one thing that you can do to break up your day is if you're doing a lot of work, give yourself 2 minutes to give yourself a little hand massage. So you take your thumb, a little soft massage right in the soft, squishy stuff. All right, so right below the pinky, right along the thumb, and you can choose what pressure feels good. You give yourself just a little hand massage, and then extend through that same hand. Try to get an angle here, and then you can gently pull through the fingers. So we'll get a stretch all the way through the finger flexors into the arm. So we can gently pull here. There's so many variations that you can play with. You can grab your middle 2 fingers. You can grab through the thumb. You can play around with that. There's no right or wrong. Okay, so if it feels good and it feels like the muscles are stretching, then go for it, do it. So we've got this direction, and then we can drop the fingers downwards towards the floor, and we can begin to pull the fingers in towards the forearm. So you can pull high on the hand. You can pull down through the fingers. You can even cup through the fingers. It really, again, depends on what your body needs. and it's going to get this really yummy stretch right over the top of the forearm. So if we're doing lots of hand work, mouse work, even if you do manual labor, painting, cooking, all of those are really, really good things to do. So move the neck, gentle range of motion, that lovely scalene stretch, and working through the hands and the forearms. There are so many more, but if there's one other takeaway from this, besides your eye dominance test, your party trick that you'll take home on the weekend now, is going to be move your body. Your body needs to move. And if we do have a lot of work, sometimes that's something we can't really escape. But if we can take 30 seconds, a minute, just to change your positioning, it's going to be such a wonderful asset to promoting some wellness in your body and to stay injury-free. Right, so that's all I have. I have questions.
Thank you, Jen. So people are on mute. If you want to open up, take yourself off mute and ask any questions to Jen.
And if you don't, that's cool. That's all right too.
Mary has a hand raised. Go ahead, Mary, if you want to take yourself off mute.
Hi, Jen. Thank you very much for all this information. It's been very, very helpful.
Sure. How's it going, Mary?
And so far, so good. I'm new to working at home.
Okay.
Yes, or today was my second day. I was
Okay.
actually throughout this whole pandemic, I've been working in the office, and now I have a new position. So my transition it's very new. This is perfect timing. My workspace, I actually think I'm doing relatively well in terms of
Good.
I have like a standing height desk, so I can actually sit and I
Okay.
can stand as needed. My problem
Nice.
is,
Okay.
like you, I am vertically challenged, and so the stool the chair that I have is actually like a drafting chair.
Okay. Yep.
And so I need something to place my feet on.
Yep.
Like you were talking about. My
Yeah.
question to you is, all the stands that I'm seeing all seem to be on an angle, and then your presentation kind of indicated that your feet should be flat. Should I worry about the angle of my feet?
No. So that particular picture was a flat surface. A great example if you are maybe this shy from the ground and you just want to throw a book or a paper ream. If you've got a lot of space, a lot of the footrests that you'll find to purchase are going to be angled, and that's completely okay. Yeah, just find the position of comfort, and that's going to be number one. But again, you're probably going to find most footrests are going to have an angle, and that's okay.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Other questions? Feel free to, like I said, take yourself off mute if you have questions.
Jen, I loved that scaling stretch. That was so great. And I am going to incorporate that in with my clients. So
Yay!
thanks for throwing something my way too.
I love it. It's one of my favorites. And I've noticed that as an adult, God, these muscles they don't get enough attention. And honestly, I do think it is from being on a phone or working this way that everything gets tighter. We get tighter through the chest. And I dabble with that one quite a bit. And I'm like, God, that is really tight.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good one. I'm glad you like it.
That's great. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I think it just feels like it's reversing all that compression just for expansion in there, which is really nice. So thanks. That was great.
Space. Yeah. Oh, Reese, can't hear you.
Hi, Reese. Yeah, we can't hear your mic. No, we still can't hear you.
Or you could type it.
How about now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And then hold on, let me just turn the background noise off. No, I was just saying that it's a great reminder. I used to do ergo assessments in the office for years. And then the real test is when you get home and have to do something.
Well, yeah.
That's the real test.
Well, sometimes you don't have the resources.
No, so when I came home and I first started having to work from home, I was just like, okay, wait, my floor is crooked. I don't have a real desk. I don't know what to do. and I kind of lost like everything in translation when I got home. And then I had to like slow down and think about the training I had. And this is definitely another reminder, because, you know, maybe like now I'm working with a smaller device, a smaller scale of scape with not the two huge monitors that have the arms that, you know, it's not as convenient as
What
it
the norm
was.
is. Yeah.
But then the other thing is that because we are where we are, you don't really get to get up and do the laps around the building.
Yeah.
That's that sedentary, like non-move, but it's this huge adjustment.
Absolutely. And your body, if it's letting you know, you're not alone. Because again, you know, like you said, you have that luxury in an office building. If you need to walk to the ladies' room, or you're going to lunch, or you're refilling your water bottle or whatever, it's an excuse to get up and move. But at home, you can walk to the kitchen.
At home, I'm just like, I don't really need to move. I mean, 2 steps, literally 1-2 steps to the bathroom. Whereas it was like 5 or 6 steps. So that step reduction is down. And then, you know, I'm trying to keep in all of my stuff, what I'm supposed to be doing, and look away, look up, because I felt like I was using that more at home, those skills more at home than in the office. And then at some point, it kind of just completely went out the window.
Yeah. Well, no, you are not alone. Like, because when you're at work, you're like, okay, I'm set up. Everything is perfect. This is like, you know, the perfect little bubble that I work in. And then you're like, nope, you're going to go home, and all that bubble, all that safety net gets taken away. And
it took me months.
You're in survival mode.
And then mentally you're just, what is going on here?
Well, I think, you know, we could have a whole other conversation.
That's a whole
about the mental change of trying to mush your personal life now with your work life, because now it's all in one space. And
just trying to create that keep that distance, and then try to keep moving and do some things. And
I mean, the biggest thing I can tell you, Reese, is, you know, your step counts might be down, but kind of revert back to that idea of taking like little small breaks. Pick 1 or 2 stretches, revert back to your training, and, you know, you learn your 20-20-20 rule.
20-20-20, yes.
Yeah. You guys familiar with the 20-20-20 rule? Okay. So the 20-20-20 rule is every 20 minutes or so, you look away at something about 20 feet away, 20 yards. I don't remember. Thank you.
For 20 seconds.
For 20 seconds. So your eyes get tired, just like your body gets tired. If you are really like dialed into a report or whatever it is, and you're like, oh my God, 3 hours later, and I've been staring, your eyes dry out and they get tired. So you're either doing one of 2 things. If you're really stuck, you got a deadline, blink. Blinking gets the natural lubrication over the eyes, kind of a no-brainer. But sometimes we have to remind ourselves to blink your eyeballs. And then if you can manage the 20-20-20 rule, you know, at least once an hour, at least look away at something that's far for 20 seconds. Your eyes have to refocus and readjust, resets you back to start, and you get back to work. Oh, set up an alarm. That's a
and
good
nothing
one.
about there's also the water intake, the lack of, it's just the confined space and lack of movement. It's so easy to just to get Quasimodo.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's like that at work anyway, but then you get home and you're just like, well, I'm at home.
You're at home. Yeah, you can relax. Perfect scenario. But at least when you're at work, you're like, I'm going to sit up nice. I'm going to adjust my chair. I'm going to, you know, do all
I'm going to move, or I'm going to roll around in my chair a little bit. And
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing. And I see in the chat box, setting up an alarm for breaks. I think that's a great idea. So if you are, you know, in a long meeting, get up and move. Set an alarm clock, once or twice an hour to change positions, because we get dialed in, and
Yeah, and if you are in meetings that are that long, you should, like any other long meetings, you should be able to get up and stand up and move. I've always been an advocate of that, even like within the office. They sit in these meetings for so long in these chairs.
Oh yeah.
And then, 4 or 5 hour meetings, it's like, okay, so people have to get up. People
well, that's a whole attention span thing too.
Oh, that as well, like
we're not meant. I mean, I've heard, and I like the one that you can sit as long as what your age is. So, if you get a child, yeah. So, if you're 40, you got 40 minutes and then you lost me. I'm sorry.
I was about to say, wait, do we have the real age or the mental age? Because my mental age might be 15.
Well, that's why kids can't sit still. If you really take that into account. If I'm teaching a course, I always tell people, if you got to get up and go stand in the back. Like that doesn't bother me.
Right. Well, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else have any other questions? I know we've got a couple minutes left. We're on a dot for an hour. Ray, Michelle, you guys good?
Yes.
I'm good. I definitely like the I dominant, and I find myself, I'm here, but I'm always looking to the left.
Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense. So thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna at work drop everybody.
Flatten your keyboard.
I put down the legs of my keyboard.
Yay! Tell a friend. It's a new movement. Flatten your keyboards. Yep. The wrists, they like two positions. They like handshake and they like palms up. Okay, palms down kind of closes things off up high at the elbow. So when we type, we're already in that palm down position, and then we jack them up with those little feet. We're going to have compression here. And especially if typing is your jam, you're doing a lot of it, over time, it doesn't feel great. Well, I appreciate you guys allowing me to do this presentation. I think it's a time appropriate. So I appreciate you guys bringing me on board to do this. If you have any questions, you can always reach out. My email is jtvat@gmail.com. I'll put it down
in the chat.
The chat. But yeah, if you have any questions, you can certainly reach out. Otherwise, that's all I got.
Great, Jen. Thank you so much. We definitely appreciate it. A lot of great tips here. Like I said, a lot of stretches and things like that I certainly had never heard of before. I think it's, like you said, I mean, and I keep saying this, I know a lot of people are working from home for the first time because of COVID and other things, but this is the new normal. I do think a lot more people are going to be working from home. So it's good for people to be prepared to do so. So this is very timely and timeless. So I appreciate you taking the time to give us this talk. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me.
We look forward to seeing you, hopefully some of our other seminars coming up. So thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Awesome. Have a good night, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.